Start that. All right, so what I was just saying to everyone else was that we use a chuck steak or a big chuck or a slow cooking steak because if you were to use rump, which is a tender meat, it would just kind of disintegrate eventually in the meat and you'd end up with like a really fine. You want pieces of meat, but you want to tenderize this meat by cooking it slowly. The water and the liquid in the meat will actually help to soften it up, okay? And it's from a part of the cow that is reasonably well used. So we're going to open this up. I'm going to use the full 500 grams. This is a good family size meal, guys, okay? It's should feed a family of 5 to 6. I would probably serve it possibly with a little bit of rice. You don't have to though because it's got a lot of veg in it, but I would put maybe an accompaniment with it. A bit of vegetable or even salad would be a bit interesting, but yeah. So we're going to chop the steak up into about 2 centimetre squares. Okay, I'm going to actually use the big knife. So we're going to chop it up. Make sure your pieces are reasonably even. You don't want these pieces that are too big, or else they won't cook differently. Okay, you want them even sized. Come on, Inoa. Alright. If anybody's on Teams, can you just let the guys at home know that I haven't got internet at the moment and that I will connect them when I can. So just comment on Teams for me that we can't connect at the moment, or possibly open up one of yours so that they can hear me. All right, so we're going to chop this up. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to coat this steak in flour. Now, by putting flour all over the steak, we're going to kind of seal in all the juices, so when we cook it off in here, it keeps all the juices inside, and it will also then move out into the liquid and thicken as it cooks, and so you'll end up with a nice sauce. Okay, so we're going to get a paper bag, a plastic bag, and inside the plastic bag we're going to put our flour. So we're going to use 60 grams, which is about 3 to 4 tablespoons of flour. And we're going to season that also with salt and pepper. This is really good comfort food too, guys, in winter. Nice, thick, warm stew. Whoop, that worked. It doesn't have to be too exact on that measurement, okay? Basically, you need enough in here to coat all this meat. We're going to put, John, turn around, a bit of salt and a bit of pepper. Not a lot, put as much in as you like, guys. So if you like a peppery flavour, then put more pepper. If you don't, then don't put much pepper. It is personal preference. So I'm only going to put like a handful at a time in, give it a shake. Okay. Just another handful. I'm going to leave that meat in there, but I'm just going to coat a little bit at a time. Because if you put it all in together, you're not going to get even coverage. So just a handful at a time. And you should probably use up pretty much all of the flour in there by the time you've coated all the meat. This is the easy way. You could roll it around in a bowl of flour, but this is nice and quick. Covers all of the meat on all the sides. You're not fiddling with rubbing it through. Okay, just nice and easy. I'm just going to take all my rings off. There we go. Okay. Last lot in. You can do it, John. You can face front for the whole lesson. I'm sure you can do it. All right. Can you see that all the meat has got, so you just want to check and make sure there's no meat that's not fully covered. You want all the sides of the meat completely covered, which I have. All right, so we're going to get this frying pan, we're going to heat it up. This is what we're going to cook it in. We also need to turn our oven on. You should probably get your oven nice and hot, so about 200 degrees. You want that to warm up for about 15 minutes or so before you put your thing in. You need to preheat an oven for about 15 minutes. That way, not only does the air inside get warm, but the sides of the oven get warm as well, and that way you get a really nice even heat. Our ovens are fan forced, so that means that the heat is circulated evenly around the oven. Okay, so we're going to put some oil in here. I don't have oil. I'm going to put some olive oil, and we're going to cook this off in batches. I don't want to cook it off all at once, because once again, I don't want to lose the moisture out of these. If we lose the moisture out of the meat, then we're going to make it tough. And we don't want tough meat. So this process is browning, and it's sealing the moisture into the meat. So it's actually quite scientific. It's called the Maillard reaction. Anytime you cook something with protein in it, even toast, you'll get this kind of reaction, and will go brown. So anything that browns in the oven or in the frying pan or in the toaster is the Maillard. It's also called dextrinization. Here's a nice big word for you. So we're going to cook this in batches, and I'm just going to scoop it out and put it into here as it cooks, okay? So we are going to chop all our veggies. I'm actually not going to peel very much. I might peel the potatoes, but I'm not going to peel these, mainly because they're a little bit bendy. They've been sitting in the fridge, but they'll be right once we cook them. Okay, so I'm going to move this up here. Just waiting for that to heat up. If we don't let that get nice and hot, I've got my wet towel here. So I can use there's a wet towel under here. I'm just going to clean my knife because I don't want meat on it. Now we're going to chop our carrots. So we're going to top and tail our carrots. And we're just going to slice down the middle and then this way. And then we're going to just dice it up. Nice and easy. You could do larger pieces. If you're cooking for longer in the oven, then I would probably go with little, just like this. Okay? But I'm going to just do it this way because this only cooks for about an hour or so. So you need to get this done reasonably quickly, guys, because we do need to get it in the oven quite fast. So you need to sort of divide and conquer. So whoever you're working with, one of them is going to do the meat, the other one's going to do the veggies, okay? There we go. So there's our carrot all chopped up. I'm going to peel my potato. Right, that's getting to a good temperature. I'm going to get my tongs out and my peeler. Potato peeler. Just going to peel our potatoes, and we're going to chop these up into chunks. Not too small, not too big. About the same size you cut them if you were making mashed potato. Okay. Go. Get rid of our mess. Trying to keep your bench as clean as possible is a good way to go. So remember to have your little ice cream containers inside. We're just going to cut these up. Alright, so you see how that's now starting to smoke a bit? It's nice and hot. We're going to start cooking this in batches. Don't want to put too much in here because we don't want it to cook in its own juices. We want it to seal. Okay, so I'm going to cook about half of it and then cook the other half. Wipe my hands after touching the meat. And I'm just going to cut that in half. This one's a bit bigger. So I'm going to go in half, and I'll probably do about 4 cuts on this one. Potato will eventually, it will soften, it will also help to thicken up your stew. You want to brown it. You want to get it nice and brown, so give it a second to crisp up on the other side. And lastly, we have our onion. I always cut the onion last. Why do I choose the onion to be the last one? Why do I choose the onion as the last one? Welcome! You're coming to Home Ec for Food Nutrition. Where?
Welcome back, Brianna.
We might need, there's a chair on the end here, sweetie, you can grab.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, beef stew today. Bit of comfort food. I like beef stew. So I'm going to.
I'm not sure Brianna is set up on her computer.
That's okay.
So she might have to sit for me.
Yeah, that's fine. She can just sit in for now. That's right. We'll stop looking at you in a second, Rihanna. All right. All right. So we're going to chop our onion roughly. It says roughly chop the onion. So it's just. We don't want it to be too small, so we're just going to go a rough chop. I haven't got internet at the moment. Could you let the office know that I can't mark the roll? So I will mark the roll when I have internet.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great day.
We will. All right. So rough chop. I always do that last though, so that I don't. I'm going to cover it because otherwise I'm going to cry. All right, so I'm going to flip my food over. Meat, it's sealing up nicely. It's got a nice brown to it. I'll show you in a sec. Just turn the meat over. Go. So I'm going to just turn my handle over here. You see how nice and brown that is? Okay, so we want a nice brown, crispy. So this is that Maillard reaction I'm talking about. Okay, and once the other side's brown, we're not going to brown all the sides, just the two, and then out into the pot, and then we're going to do it again with the next line. Just want to get it all nice and you really do, you want the meat to be brown because you don't want kind of pale pasty meat in your stew. You want it to look cooked, and this just gives it, it's just a nicer appearance on the meat. Right, that's enough. So reasonably long on one side but not as long on the other. If you need to, you can add a little bit more oil. I'm just going to cook the next batch. So you're probably going to do it in 2 or 3 batches. Just going to add a tiny bit more oil just to get it cooking well. You could also cook some of your onion off in here with it as well, which I'm going to do, because I quite like to give that flavour of onion through the meat by just giving it a bit of a cook. Cook the onion off. This should torment everybody in the rooms upstairs, which is what I really like doing, is making everybody go, oh, what are they cooking? That's so unfair. Yeah, it's rough, isn't it? That's it, get your onion in there. This will just soften the onion up a bit. It'll also help get the flavour of the onion through the meat, which I think is delicious. Just let that cook. All right, so as you might notice, if you're having a look at the recipe, there's not as many directions here as I am actually giving you up here. Okay, so I'll put this video up on OneNote. Pardon? Yes, there. That's there. Awesome. So you need to put in these extra steps, okay, because it is actually important to do it with these steps. I'm going to turn those over. This pan's nice and hot now, so it's actually searing the meat up really well. You could use a skillet for this as well, like a nice cast iron pan that would get nice and hot. It's cooking. If you move there and you talk, I'm moving you back. Understand? Yes. Marley can stay where he is or else we'll never get anything done. Alright. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more oil. That's a much better sizzle. Just want to get rid of some of that pink. The smell of onion cooking has to be one of the best smells. Onion and garlic, I think, are some of the best smells. And on that note, I'm going to add some garlic to the next mixture of meat. The next time I put the meat in, I'm going to add garlic to it. So we've got all of the really fragrant foods cooked off just a little bit, and it just releases the smell a bit better. All right, so that's that lot. See that? Still pink. It's not cooked properly yet. Put a bit more oil, and we're going to cook the last of the meat. I'm going to get the meat in. Just splashed oil there, so be careful you're not dropping it from too high. Yeah, luckily I'm wearing an apron. Alright, so can you see there's a little bit of flour left over in there? I'm actually going to add that when we put the water in, okay? Because we want to have all that flour in our mix. Okay, last lot of browning, and a teaspoon of garlic is going in with this one. You can use fresh garlic, but gee, this stuff is so much easier to use, and you don't end up with garlic fingers, which is a downside of using fresh garlic. The bottled garlic. Somebody's done all the hard work for us. You can also buy pre-peeled garlic at most places that sell fruit and veg will have pre-peeled garlic, which I think is a fabulous idea. Serious? Close. You asking a question? Okay, so we're going to tip that in there. I'm going to add in my potatoes, my carrots. You can add so many veggies into this, guys. You can, if you have veggies at home, like if you have some celery that's almost ready to go, you don't want to waste it, put it in. If you have a zucchini, you can throw that in. It's pretty much sky's the limit. Root vegetables, turnips, parsnip. You are not limited to the number of vegetables that can be thrown into a stew. So I'm going to put the rest of this flour in just to add to the sauce. We need a teaspoon. It says a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, which I think is a complete and total waste of time when you could add a tablespoon. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce because that's much better flavour. Something else you could also add to this would be tomatoes, tomato paste. Do we have tomato paste, Mrs. Cook? Is that something we have leftovers of? Because we might add some tomato, just a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste to this would be absolutely exceptional. And even a tin of tomatoes could be thrown into this as well. So depends how tomatoey you like recipes to be. So we've got a beef stock cube. We're going to go in there. Beef stock cube. Just crumble it all up. Starter, that'll do. I'm going to put a little bit of this in, not a lot, maybe quarter of a cup. Just a quarter of a cup like that. There we go. So basically it's a really great way to use up stuff you've got left over. Okay, right, and that's going to go in. That's all cooked off. So it's by no means fully cooked. It is only partially cooked. I'm going to mix that around in there. Get the veggies all coated in the flour as well. Beef stock, thyme. We're going to put a bay leaf in. These need to be taken out before you serve. So we're going to put a couple of bay leaves. This just gives some nice flavour. Okay. And thyme. Do we have thyme, Mrs. Crook? Thyme's outside. We're going to go pick some. 2 bay leaves, beef stock, minced garlic. Right, we've got everything in. And we just need some water. So we're going to put enough water to fill it about halfway. Okay, so we're going to use our jug. Have a jug. The jug is missing. Jug is missing. Let's have a jug. That's okay. I'm going to use a couple of cups. So 2 cups of water, maybe 1.5 cups of water. So you only want to fill it about halfway because some of this will boil off. So that'll do. We're going to put the lid on to start with, and about halfway through the cooking process we're going to take the lid off. Okay, and then that way some of the liquid can evaporate. So that just goes in the oven like that. On the centre, right in the middle, so that it has all the best heat. Oh, I forgot to put my thyme in. So we'll just open that. I'll toss in my thyme. Right, it's in. So once again, you could serve that with maybe a little bit of rice, a bit of pasta on the side, but it does not need that necessarily. It has everything in it that it already needs as a meal. It's got your protein, it's got plenty of veggies. You can always throw more veggies. Any questions about the cook? Right, so get your work plan sorted, guys, now. That's what I want you to do right this second. Write the work plan, have that done, and email it to me so I can print it for you. Yours is done, but can you check and make sure you got all your utensils correct? Okay, because I had a look at it and I want you to check your utensils. These are the utensils I used. Okay. All right. I do like doing this on Monday instead of on Tuesday, but we've lost too many Mondays. Right, so that's done. It's in the oven, and yes.
Do I